conversations sound plentiful. Hopefully you enjoyed your meal. I do want to take a minute to thank and recognize Bon Appetit. Many of you probably are aware that Bon Appetit is a new food service for St. Mary of the Woods College as of this fall. And we've all enjoyed the new menu items and obviously the new dining hall. So I want to take a minute to thank their staff. And joining us across the room is Ryan Engel. He is the new catering manager for Bon Appetit. Thank you. After 30 years of dedicated service, Deanna Bradley retired from St. Mary of the Woods College, where she served as the athletic director and the head coach of the women's basketball team. As Deanna departed, we knew we needed an experienced leader to move us forward. Ron Prettyman joined St. Mary of the Woods College in June of this year as our interim director of athletics. Ron brings a wealth of experience with him to the college, including several years as an AD for both the NCAA and NAIA colleges and universities. He's also a very well-respected member of the Wabash Valley in our community. Unfortunately, Ron is unable to be with us this evening, but he did want to join us, so I know I mentioned earlier we're tired of screens, but I do need you to pay attention to the screens for just a minute, and Ron has a quick message for all of us, so I'll turn it over to Ron.
Good evening, everyone. What a great night to be a Pomeroy. I'm Ron Prettyman, the interim athletic director at St. Mary of the Woods College. Wish I could be with you tonight, but circumstances prevented that. I want to let each of you know how special this event is for athletics. We teach our student athletes that it takes courage to lead. Without the courageous step that you all took to add scholarship athletics, St. Mary of the Woods College athletics would not exist today and would not have had the successes the students and the college have enjoyed over the last 3 decades. Since that time, the college has won 17 national championships, 15 national championship runner-up finishes, and honored hundreds of academic All-American students. Athletics for these young people is a huge part of their journey to becoming difference makers in our world. I'm proud and humbled to be a part of St. Mary of the Woods College and the rich tradition of the intercollegiate athletics program. I want to congratulate you on your induction into the St. Mary of the Woods Athletics Hall of Fame, and I hope that your night is a great one. Congratulations again.
It's been a pleasure for me over the last several months to work with Ron. Regret that he could not be with us this evening, so I appreciate him providing that short clip for us. So a quick order of our program this evening. First, we're going to hear from one of our student athletes. Then she's going to hand it off to President King, and she's going to make some remarks as well as some special presentations. And then finally, we will do what we all gathered here to do tonight, which is to induct our next class into the Hall of Fame. So our student speaker, Emma Saunders, is going to make her way to the podium. Emma is a sophomore basketball player. She is from Terre Haute, and she's also the 5th student in her family to attend the Woods. So we'll turn it over to Emma.
Thank you, Vice President Randolph. It is an honor to be a part of this evening's celebration. I am humbled to be representing my fellow Woods athletes at this important Hall of Fame event. As Vice President Randolph said, I am Emma Saunders. I am a second-year student at the Woods and a member of the women's basketball team. St. Mary of the Woods College has always been a part of my life, not because I'm from Terre Haute, but because I am a legacy student. The Woods is deeply rooted in our family. My mother, grandmother, and 2 great aunts came before me. Fun fact, I actually attended my first alumni reunion in 2002. Yep, the year I was born. In my last year of high school, I had little to no intention of playing basketball at the next level. So much so that I quit my travel basketball team to focus on the 100 and 300 hurdles event for track. When I began to truly consider the Woods, I found myself being recruited by both track and field and basketball programs. This opened my eyes for the possibilities in front of me and reignited my passion for basketball. Advancing to the collegiate level doesn't happen for everyone. I am grateful that I was fortunate enough to do so. Only one other teammate I played with in my 4 years at Terre Haute North enjoys the same privilege of playing college ball as I did. I have no doubt that many athletes at SMWC have similar stories. They are one of maybe a few among their high school peers who have continued to live their passion and compete at a higher level. I know we have many of you here tonight to thank for that. While preparing for this evening, I asked some of my teammates why they chose to continue with athletics in college. Woods athletes receive a college education and continue to play at a competitive level in a sport that they love. But there is more to our story. Something we didn't anticipate happening is the tight bond and relationships that we formed. It makes sense though, right? Not only are we in class together, but we live in the same building, we eat, sleep, travel, and practice 6 days for countless hours, thanks to Coach Mack. All together.
You're welcome.
We have become a family. But it's surprising to know that when I talk with my friends in the local community, their idea of St. Mary the Woods College is that most of the students are athletes. I have been asked if the entire campus is filled with student athletes. Likewise, why anyone would go to the Woods if you were not an athlete? Don't worry, I quickly filled them in on all we offer beyond competitive sports. To the former trustees being inducted into the Hall of Fame tonight, thank you. Each of our 14 sports is represented here tonight. Your work and the pivotal vote you took more than 25 years ago made our Woods experience possible. In 1994, when the first scholarship women's basketball team took the court in the old gym, they played without a complete regulation three-point line. I have seen the pictures and heard the stories from my professor, advisor, mentor, and fellow Woods basketball player, Elaine Yaw, class of 1995. My mother and her friends cheered for Elaine and her fellow Pomeroys while leaning over the second-floor track wall because there was no other way to watch the game. Look at how far we've come. Today, we have a beautiful facility with 2 gyms and plenty of room for our fans. Our equine facilities have more than doubled since the early 1990s. We have an outdoor athletics complex that continues to grow and 2 new sports teams joining us next year. On behalf of all SMWC student athletes, thank you. Thank you for making this our reality. We can't wait to see what the next 25 years will bring.
Thank you, Emma. Glad you're here. Is Elaine in the room? No, I didn't know if she was going to be here. I was going to make her stand up and embarrass her and talk about what it was like to play in 1995. That's probably why she didn't come. Before we start, we have so much to be thankful for. I'm going to say a lot of thank yous tonight, but I don't want to fail to give thanks for the fact that we are able to gather. I'm thankful for the perseverance of the scientists in our country who work diligently to get a vaccine for us. I'm thankful for the healthcare workers who really worked on the front lines and long hours and all of that. And I'm just thankful to all of you. Gathering is something we don't take for granted anymore. I tried to make my way around to see each of you, and I'm not sure I did, but I'm glad you're here. Doesn't it feel kind of good? It certainly does to me, so thank you. Your presence with us adds importance to our evening, and we're grateful. Before we get to the induction ceremony, we're going to recognize an honest level of giving. When donors to St. Mary of the Woods College reach the $100,000 level, we recognize them with either a scarf or a tie from St. Mary of the Woods College. And tonight we're going to acknowledge 4 individuals for earning this category in our philanthropic support of the college. And they don't know about this, so I hope they're not mid-bite or drink. But the first is Michael McMahon. Michael, will you join me? Our next recipient is Nancy Payon, class of 91. couple, Dick and Donetta Smith. For you this evening, you're going to get a preview of St. Mary of the Woods College fight song. The fight song was written by a friend of mine. His name is Pete Kikta, and the music was written by him, and his daughter is a current student at the Woods, but I've known him for years. And the lyrics were written by our very own Karen Dyer. So they collaborated. Karen is very multi-talented, but she's not going anywhere. But we're gonna launch this publicly at our home opener of the women and men's basketball. So it'll be the first ever game for our men and the home opener for our women. We're excited about all of that. It is on October 30th, and the women will take the floor at 5 and the men at 7. We'd love to see you all there. We're gonna have a new student cheering section, and we're going to formally announce the song here, but you get the sneak preview. So look at the screens, we have a video, soon you'll be singing along.
Whose woods are these? We know, right down the avenue we go, bringing the spirit, Sister Mary Jo. Wearing our blue and white, the woods go. Our mighty Saint will give us voice. The big boys and wolves will find our voice. Stand up, dear woodsies, and make some noise. Cheer on the mighty Pomeroys. P-O-M-E-R-O-Y, the Pomeroys. P-O-M-E-R-O-Y, let's make some noise. Go woods, go woods, go woods. With running streams, it's understood. There woodsies for life and Pomeroys for good. So strive on for victory and sainthood. Cheer on, St. Mary of the Woods. St. Mary of the Woods. Go Woods!
I think this will be in the future. I hope you enjoyed the scenes, not only the song that we'll all sing now, but the scenes of the athletes from past and our current athletes. And I hope for those of you in the room that are going to be honored tonight with the induction, you begin to feel that. What you got, the ball that you got rolling for us, and how special what you did is. We have seen our athletics programs grow not just in the number of teams, but I hope you were a little bit caught off guard when you found out the percentage of our students who are athletes at St. Mary of the Woods College. I've done my own research, and I've learned that when an athlete comes to a school, they usually bring 1.2 non-athlete students with them. In other words, students who are not athletes want to go to a school that has strong athletic programs. So it makes the school far more attractive. So it's my prayer that this song is sung for centuries, and we're 180 years later, they'll be talking about Karen Dyer. That's the way I think this is going to go. We're now going to move to the reason we came tonight, to the induction part of our ceremonies. And so, if Brennan will join me again, we are together going to honor the Board of Trustees from the years 1992-93 and 1993-94 as the 2021 class into the St. Mary of the Woods College Athletic Hall of Fame. The decisions that were made to allow for this induction were the historic decision to add a scholarship athletic program, a gym floor, that would be talked about for 27 years. For strengthening of a college at a time when it was most needed, and making the Woods competitive with other schools. And finally, for setting in motion, pardon my pun, a ball that has never stopped rolling. And so, as we add men's basketball, and next year 2 other sports, we remember women's basketball being the first. And it's carried us through till now. And as we move to the National Association of Intercollegiate Athletics and the River States Conference, this year we're blessed by the decision that you made. So we are now going to call you up one at a time, for those of you who are here. On the back of your program, you may have noticed, the full group of people who were part of the historic decision are listed. Some of them were unable to attend, and some of them are deceased. We owe a debt of gratitude to all of them, including the then president, Sister Barbara Doherty. And so for those who are here, we're going to call your names as individuals. We have a gift for you. And somehow I would love to get a picture of you under the center court. More about that in a minute. Our own Sue Hamilton's going to share the story from her own words and recollection. But the center court from the original gymnasium became significant, and we brought it into our new gym, because at the Woods, we remember. Okay, first, I would like Diana Bailey to come, and she's accepting the award on behalf of her late husband, Dave Bailey. Next, we have Mary Ellen Backer from the class of 1963. Mary Ad Baker from the class of 1971. Gildersleeve. Career when he was like 12 years old, and I said, no, they're going on. Sue Hamilton from the class of 1966 and 1990 in the graduate program, and you want to do these separately or together? You and Wayne? Together? And so Wayne Hamilton. decision. A different award for a different year for Pamela. Jeannie Heller, class of 1970. She's a sister of Providence, and she's from the class of 1966. From the class of 1970. Dick Smith.
Old class.
Didn't even know what class he was from, and I said old. And finally, Nancy Williams from the class of 1960. Let Sue, in a moment, Sue Hamilton from the Board of Trustees that made this decision, come up and tell the story in her own words. But I just want to say one more thing to this group that we're honoring tonight. Sometimes big decisions don't seem like it at the time. You really don't know the long-term importance of what you're doing. It's really a matter of, in faith, stepping forward and doing the next right thing. And the next right thing in 1994 for St. Mary of the Woods College was scholarship athletics. And we don't always get to see the fruits of our decisions, but sometimes we're blessed to see them. So it's my most sincere prayer that tonight, as you look at our student athletes, if you look at the videos and see the pictures, you really have a sense of how important that decision was and how right it was. So thank you for your courage and your wisdom.
So on behalf of the trustees from 1992 through 1994, I would like to thank all of you for this honor. After all, it's not very often that a non-athlete, a non-coach, or a non-team manager gets inducted into an athletic Hall of Fame. So, when I was a student here at the Woods in the early 60s, I actually did play basketball on the floor in the old gym. But this was during the time when women's basketball, you couldn't cross the center line.
Oh, God.
And I used to think, how crazy was that? Did they think we couldn't run that far? Or what, But, so women's sports were just not given the same importance as they were in that era. Over the following decades, despite the passage of Title IX, there were no scholarship sports teams here. So, what part did the trustees from these years play? We know the Spirit was working to bring the idea to fruition, and many stories can be told. And if you are a trustee, you have a story during this time of what happened. But I'd like to tell you our part of the story. At our first Board of Trustees meeting, Wayne and I, who were the first couple to ever serve on the board, found ourselves sitting next to Dick Smith. And we started talking, and Dick's daughter had recently graduated from the Woods. And we start talking during the meeting, and he keeps saying, no, we really should have more sports at the Woods. And I said, oh, don't we? You know, it was our first meeting. We didn't know anything. We talked during the whole meeting, and all of a sudden, I said, well, Dick, we have to do something about this. And Dick said, you're right. And Wayne looked around, and there was a guy who was on the board then, John David Mooney.
An artist from Chicago.
Yeah, he was an artist from Chicago, and he was wearing a hat.
Beret. No, that's for a beret.
So Wayne went up to him and said, may I borrow your hat?
He gave us the hat, and we decided we had the floor was atrocious over the.
It was warped. It was warped, and you couldn't play on it.
And you couldn't dribble a ball out, you couldn't shoot around the rafters. I mean, it was terrible over there. But we took his hat, and we passed the hat around, and we raised $5,000 to build a new gym floor.
So we replaced the gym floor. That was the very first step. And I remember Deanna Bradley. I mean, she was like, oh my gosh, we have a new floor. This is like amazing. And they played there for a year or two. But if you remember the old gym, it had columns. And when they were, you know, shooting the ball, they would hit all the heating ducts and all of that stuff.
We had the advantage on the other teams because we knew how to shoot them.
Yeah. So they really couldn't play there more than a year or two. And so finally they had to play off campus.
We had to go off campus. I think we went to one of the local high schools. We played there. Yeah, somewhere around there. But but that was the beginning. You know, that was the very beginning. And over the following years, we offered some outdoor sports, but we could never do volleyball or basketball unless we had an indoor place. So it was not until 20 years later that the Norley Center became a reality. And we thank the presidents during those years, Sister Barbara Doherty and Sister Joe Lashinsky and Dave Bears and of course Dottie, who just kept the vision alive and kept it moving along every year. Small colleges like the Woods work long and hard for our goals. And this was another journey of perseverance and persistence, and we all made it happen. So thank you again for recognizing the contributions of the trustees who are dedicated to providing the students here with a first-class education, including scholarship sports. Thanks. Thank you.
I'm interrupting Brennan's program. You're next. I want to say something about how I think about these stories, and then I have some pieces of the gym floor available for anyone, because the Woods does remember. So when we were building Norley Center, I was really excited. By then I had heard the story and had met Dick and several of you, and I knew the story of their courage, but courage is one thing, but then putting your own money in the hat, that's another thing. That's another level of giving. And I want the students in the room to hear that. I want them to know that's how this came to be. And it was for you and it was for us, and we all kind of stand on the legacy of those shoulders of people who were willing to not only make a courageous decision, but then they were willing to sacrifice to see it through. That's a big deal. And in God's hands, that's how things happen. When you make a right decision and then you're willing to sacrifice for it, God begins to join your efforts. And so we've been blessed, but when Nerley Center was happening, it's hard to imagine without it now. We've been with it and we enjoy it every day. But when it was being built, we who worked at the Woods were like so silly. When the lockers came in on a truck, it was a freezing day. It was snow outside, and we went and stood outside and watched them bring the lockers in because we had lockers. And when the main gym was all put together, but no lights yet, no floor yet, it was just walls, we went inside one day and we invited the students and the faculty and staff, and we wrote prayers on those walls. So underneath that really pretty paint are our prayers. Are on that. And who will ever see them besides God? No one now. But it was a special day for us because we didn't take it for granted. And for me, I knew the story about that gym floor and that hat, and I said, Centerport has to come in. I met a little resistance from some people that said it's dirty and it's not new. And why would we bring a dirty, not new thing into our bright, shiny new thing? And I said, let's clean it up. We're bringing it. And so I hope when you look at it, you see that the past of the Woods pulls together into the future and is important. And then we cut up the rest of it and we stamped it and we have pieces of it. We gave it away then, and I brought some more for tonight because maybe you don't have your piece of the gym floor, so wait. Here's what they look like. And we have a bunch of them over here. So after the program, if you would like your own piece of the gym floor, it is original, and these aren't cleaned up in a way. You'll be able to see that they really were used and dirty. But I think it's really important. So now Brennan will come and close us out. All right.
We have plenty of floor inventory, so make your way up here after this photo. One more round of applause for all of our inductees. It's been a very special evening. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have as we've reflected and looked back, and gives us an opportunity to see what the future holds. A couple of housekeeping items before we wrap up. If you're a member of the Board of Trustees, don't forget we have an 8 a.m. breakfast and a 9 a.m. meeting in this room tomorrow morning. So Peggy wanted me to remind you of that. You might want to begin to get your glasses ready if you need to use the emergency water at the center of the table, so please make your way to that. If you are one of the inductees, there is a photo request immediately following our toast, so if you will come up front and Christy will take some photos, group photos. And I'm going to turn it over to Alice Shelton this time, class of 87. Alice is also the vice chair for the Board of Trustees, and she is going to offer our toast. Alice?
I'll prompt you to lift your glasses when it's time, so you can hold on a moment. Those of you who know me know that I spend a lot of time deep in my own mind, probably too deep sometimes, and I just want to preface this with a couple remarks before I go into my toast. The toast tonight that I've written is called A Toast to Wise Ancestors. Ancestors is a word that we don't use very often. It might make us uncomfortable because it makes us think about dead people. But really, ancestors are not dead. Even if they're not with us on this earth in this energy plane, they are always with us. And so when I thought about this group of trustees who are my ancestors as a current trustee, who made decisions that were difficult and deep that have impact today, I wanted to honor them as ancestors. Students, it's really hard for you to imagine now what it might feel like someday to be in my place. It was hard for me when I was in your place to think that I would ever hold leadership in this institution that helped to keep it going forward. And I want to tell you now, as my ancestors, it is possible for you to do this. And your sitting here today is connected to the future tomorrow, a long time down the road. So please remember that. Please remember that. A toast to wise ancestors. Ancestors. Tonight, we toast an old tradition, a future we could not imagine, the fruits of a long, perhaps painful and difficult time of discernment, a step, a leap really, a time of planting. You, each of you, believed. And even if you could not have possibly known about your belief, you acted anyway. A trust in God's way of providential movement. And here we are, celebrating you and your courageous insight. Ancestors still standing together as one this evening. Our work continues. Our gratitude is lifted to you as we raise our glasses in a deep and rooted thank you to our board colleagues. Cheers. Cheers. Thank you. Thank you for being with us this evening. Enjoy the rest of your time together.